Hello and welcome into Steelers Talk by Chat Sports. I'm Meghan Payton. We want to first welcome in our new viewers. Guys, thanks for joining the Chat Sports family. If you guys have not subscribed already, by the way, this is to our old friends too. Make sure you go hit that big red button or go to youtube.com/Steelers TV. We are very close to 6,000 subscribers, so go help us out. We promise we're going to keep you updated on all things Steelers. So on today's show, we're going to be talking and previewing the Titans game on Sunday. But first, we are going to get into some injury updates. We've got some news, rumors, stuff to go over. But the main question I think a lot of you guys have is regarding TJ Watt, his status for Week 15. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have a clear update. He is questionable for Week 15. Luckily, they did play on Thursday. That gave him a couple extra days to recover. He's still clearly recovering. He went out with a groin injury against the Vikings. Not the first time that this has happened to him this season, and also not the first time we're talking about that here on Steelers Talk. Groin injuries have been a major problem for Pittsburgh. It does not seem to go away. But despite missing games, TJ Watt has had 16 sacks this year and 48 tackles in 2021. We've talked about this in previous videos, so we're not getting into it today, but that is why TJ Watt should be Defensive Player of the Year. Go check out that video. We'll leave it in the description if you have missed our Defensive Player of the Year candidates. More injury updates. Alex Highsmith. Mike Tomlin said that he could return for this week's game. He went out against the Vikings game with a knee injury, so he would clearly be someone you'd like to have back as the Steelers try to hang on to their last bit of playoff hopes. Joe Haden, who we haven't seen in 4 games, because he's dealing with that foot injury. It's a foot sprain. Those can linger a little bit, but we are hearing from Mike Tomlin that he is on the candidate list of could return for Week 15. That would be a huge help for the Steelers, who have been really lacking in the secondary area. I think that Joe Haden would very much help them get a win against the Titans. Some other candidates to return for Week 15. We're not going to go through every single one of these guys, but Mike Tomlin did say Robert Spillane, Isaiah Buggs, Carlos Davis, Joe Haig, and J.C. Hassenauer. They are likely, or, I wouldn't, maybe likely isn't the right term, but they are definitely candidates to return for this Week 15 game against the Titans. The Steelers need everyone back that they can get. Who do you guys think, though, that the Steelers need back the most in order to beat the Titans this week? This is our pinned comment. If you are new here, this is what we do. We pin a comment. You might get the ad break here, but now is the time to go down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. All right, we are going to switch gears a little bit back to the Chase Claypool drama. Nothing really new here. If you have missed it, I don't know how you could, because it was all over Twitter, but Chase Claypool received a lot of criticism after the Vikings game for a couple things. He caused the Steelers to give up 15 yards with a penalty after poking a Vikings player. And then, of course, the main one that everyone talked about was his celebration after a 9-yard reception. When the Steelers were down in the fourth quarter, they needed every second that they could get, and Chase Claypool's off celebrating. So it caused some issues around Pittsburgh. And Big Ben was asked about it, and I think this team is trying to move forward. He said he's a receiver. We talk after the game. I told him I appreciated his effort. He helped us get back into that game. Chase and I have had talks. We need to count on Chase because he's a really good football player. I believe he'll give us everything he has this week. Now, Mike Tomlin had a different approach to this. He said that these guys don't come to you as finished products. That's another part of coaching that I embrace. We collectively embrace. It is the reason why we make what we make, and there are so many of us, because these guys are less than finished products when we get them. There is a growth and development that has to take place. And so I think when you hear your coach say this about you, I think you learn, you've learned your lesson. I do believe that Claypool gets it now. I think he's going to step up. He understands that you're not going to last long in this league if you cannot handle and control your emotions. Chase Claypool is a good receiver. He's right now the Steelers' best receiver with Juju Smith out, but he still can't cost Steelers points. He can't cost Steelers times, and definitely can't cost them yards with stupid penalties. I do think that Chase Claypool is still maturing. And, I think Mike Tomlin's approach was very fair. He's saying to you, like, hey, these guys, they have to mature. They're young. Sometimes we forget that Claypool's 24 years old. There's still a lot of growth, still a lot of things that he has to develop, but he has been great at the receiving position. If we look at his stats alone, he's been targeted 81 times this season, 47 receptions, 753 yards, and 1 touchdown. The Steelers have depended on him a lot this year, and they're going to continue to depend on him in order to make it into the 2021-2022 NFL playoffs. So when we talk Chase Claypool and, things kind of get off track, not talking football, talking more emotions, I want to ask you guys, what's your concern level with the Chase Claypool drama? We're going to scale this from 1 to 10. So if you're not concerned about Claypool's actions at all, you'd go down to the comments and you'd scale it like a 1. But if you're saying, no, this is a major problem, give it a 10. It's probably somewhere in between. But right now, go let me know what you are thinking. Okay, as we talk playoffs, we have to talk the Steelers' remaining schedule. There are only 4 games left of the regular season, which is just insane that it's gone by so fast. These are not going to be easy games. The Pittsburgh Steelers take on the Titans this week at home. Then they go on the road to take on the Kansas City Chiefs. Then they'll be back at home to take on the Browns, and they end the year off playing against the Ravens in Baltimore. So these are difficult games. These are all AFC teams. So this is going to have big, obviously, implications on playoffs, but also maybe even division standings if the Steelers do want to try and win the division, which is obviously going to be their main goal. I think that this Titans game is going to be one of their more difficult ones. I'm hoping that they can at least get a win, because right now I think the Steelers need their confidence back a little bit, and they need it in order to really stay in the playoff picture, because right now they're kind of hanging on by a thread. They're not in it as, if the playoffs were today, they would not be in it. We know that, but they are in the others category. We see them at the 6-6 category. Steelers are obviously 6-1 because of that tie, but they're not far off. This AFC is very competitive this year, and they're all close. So, the Steelers, we talked about this too in their Path to Playoff video, but they can control their own destiny, essentially. If they could win out, the Steelers are making the playoffs if they can win out. And they can even afford, I'd say, 1 loss. Anything more than that, though, it's going to be very unlikely that they make it. It has to start this week, though, against the Titans, a hard game, and it's going to be a close game, in my opinion. This is December 19th, Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Like I said, it is at home. Titans are favorite at -1. The over-under is set at 42. And because the spread right now, they only have the Titans favorite -1. This is a game that I would bet on. If you guys are betting at all this season, this would be my choice. And let me tell you real quick about the sports book that we love here at Chat Sports. That is BetUS. If you go to chatsports.com/bet, use promo code Steelers125, you can get 125% deposit bonus. That means you put up $100, it turns into $225. Now you've got an extra $125 to bet on whatever you'd like. I'm saying bet on this game, but you can bet on whatever you would want to bet on. Like I said, Steelers are not favored in this game, but the Titans are only favored by -1. If I'm you guys, I'm taking the Steelers on this. I think that the Steelers will win at least by 3. So go to chatsports.com/bet. Make sure you go check that out. Get your bets in. And I'd say this would be a choice that I'd have. The Steelers have been, struggling a little bit, but they know how important it is to win. And I think Big Ben, I think Mike Tomlin, this whole team is ready to take on the Tennessee Titans and come up with a win. Now, I am going to go over some of the things that I think that the Steelers need to do in order to win. We are going to break this down. If you have any of your other suggestions, make sure to go get them in the comments. The first one is they need to stop missing tackles. This continues to be a problem for the Steelers, which is just crazy, because when you think of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you think about how dominant their defense is. You think of low-scoring games where guys like, TJ Watt, back in the day were able to shut down any offense in the league. That has not been the case this year, and they did not do that with Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook had 205 yards last week and 2 touchdowns. So they can't expect to win games if they're going to play the way they did against the Vikings. And I understand it was a heartbreaking game because they came back, it got close, they almost won, but you don't want to be in those situations. You can't win and realistically go far in the playoffs. The Steelers have given up 1,813 yards this year on 365 attempts. That's really bad. The most, I think, in history that they've ever given up in a season is like 2000. So they're not on a good track. And, Cameron Hayward has been fantastic. Him and TJ Watt, obviously TJ Watt's not on this list. We're looking at the defensive line. Those have been the 2 standout guys on defense, but we need to see more from Chris Wormley. We need to see more from Isaiah Buggs, but they're missing guys like Stephon Tuitt. They wish that he was out there. Tyson Alualu, again, a guy that you really wish was back out there on your line. And unfortunately, they just haven't been able to get it done with the current guys active on their roster. So they've got to figure it out against the Titans. Luckily, they are not going to have to be taking on Derrick Henry, but it's still going to be a little bit of a struggle. You've got to go up against Dontrell Hilliard, Deontay Foreman. Those guys are still going to pose a problem for this Steelers defense. All right, next key to victory I have is that we need to see a clean performance by Big Ben. And I don't think that that's crazy. I think Big Ben has actually played, some of his best games of the season, these last 2 games. And Big Ben has been impressive. He wants to go out good, guys. If this is going to be his last year, which I think it will be, he wants to end solid. So there is no one that wants to win more than Big Ben. And he's proven himself this year. I'm not saying that he's an elite quarterback right now that deserves to be in this league much longer, but in his last 2 games, they have been impressive. 544 yards. These are over 2 games, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception, and an average QBR of 109.5. And like I said, he wants this more than anyone. You know this, guys. When a guy's about to retire, they want to end big. They want to go out well, right off into the sunset on an amazing season, an amazing career. And so I think Big Ben's going to be ready to play. And I think that the Steelers are lucky to have Roethlisberger behind center, just able to help control the Steelers' destiny. So we talked about his success over the last couple games. So now I'm going to throw in my own betting questions for you guys. Will Big Ben throw over or under 300 yards against the Titans? If you think he's going to be over, type O for over or type U for under. He was over last week, so it's not that crazy of a chance. If I'm you, I'm picking O for over. Let's go, Big Ben. All right, my last key to victory for the Steelers to beat the Titans is that they need to get points on the board early. Now, this goes back to the same situation like I was talking about with the Vikings game last week. You cannot be in a situation where you are constantly having to make up for points that you lost in the first half. That can't happen. And so, I don't know. I love the idea of the opening drive, ball to Deontay Johnson. It's worked before. And let Big Ben throw it deep. I mean, come on, guys. These could be his last about 4 games of the regular season in his whole career. I think you let him just go all out, throw some deep balls. I think his accuracy has gotten better. Hopefully we can see some good play by Chase Claypool without the drama. Deontay Johnson, I expect to have a good game. I mean, maybe even a little bit of Ray McLeod. I think James Washington will be utilized a little bit, at least in this Titans game. And someone I hope to see some improvement from is tight end Pat Freiermuth. We've talked about him a bunch, and he's been up and down this season. And I know that last week it didn't end well for him against the Titans, but against the Vikings. But I do think that Freiermuth, he's a rookie. He's going to come ready to play. There's a lot of pressure on rookies. People expect these guys to transition into the NFL and it be just this perfect, seamless transition. I think Freiermuth is still learning. I think he's a really good tight end. I think the Steelers are going to get a lot of use out of him over the years. I mean, he's had 45 receptions this year, 385 yards, 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns is very impressive. He's been probably, I'd say, the most impressive rookie tight end that we've seen in a long time. So I expect Freiermuth to have a good game this week. And of course, guys, we will be the first to give you game recaps. We're going to be talking and breaking down everything that happens in this Steelers versus Titans game. So this is why you subscribe to Steelers Talk, because you will not miss out on any injury updates, any rumors, news, all that stuff is here at Steelers Talk. So go to youtube.com/SteelersTV or press that big red button.